the medical medium. How is everybody out there? I have Elizabeth Shafiroff right here with me. She's an old friend. We didn't originally start out that way. You came to me 10 years ago. But Liz is an amazing person. She's here to tell her story about Lyme disease, about how she struggled and suffered as a young woman, because it's really hard when it's at that age, especially. And we're here. She's a dear friend. I'm really lucky that I got her here right now with everything, and she's here. She's going to help out so many people because it's important to know about Lyme disease. It's important to know about the truth about it, about what people go through. She has history that is it's priceless, this history, because it's different when you're diagnosed with Lyme disease today, a lot different than it was 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 12 years ago. And I mean, it's the dark ages now with Lyme disease. It was the dark ages 10, 12 years ago for real, like even more so, because there wasn't any kind of, I mean, there wasn't even any kind of hope because science and research didn't know a lot. But anyway, have Elizabeth here. I'm so happy. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you so much, Anthony. Anthony, I'm just so grateful to you. Anthony saved my life. Anthony is unique from my personal experience. He shows unconditional love to people, which I find was very hard to find in my experience with professionals and practitioners. And he actually really cares about the person, each individual, each person. And that is what compelled me to Anthony. And from the first time I spoke to him on the phone, I knew that he was someone that actually cared and didn't just wasn't in it, just was following a book or following a set of rules. No, Anthony has, and he has the research to back it up. And so I just want to thank Anthony for coming into my life. I never saw it happening. I just one day stumbled upon Anthony and he has changed my life.
I think it was a health food store too, and it was like 2010, probably right
Yeah,
around that
right
time.
around that
So we're
time.
coming on 10 years, I think. So that's
Yeah.
what we're doing.
Yeah.
And but it's great to see you vibrant and here and alive and well and safe, and I always, I mean, I think, what were you, 23 when you came to me originally?
No, so I was around 21 when I began
Okay.
having symptoms. I was in college. It was my third year of college, and I woke up one day and I felt like a different person. I was not the person that I was. I had no energy, no physical energy. Coffee stopped working. Like I would have coffee every day and it would pep me up and make me feel great. And it did
That
absolutely
happens
nothing.
too. That happens to people when they're starting to get sick. Coffee's not cutting it. Or they need their coffee no matter what because they have something underlying and they just don't, nobody knows about it yet. And years could be where they have to have their coffee to function. I want to talk about it later too because people like, it's like, why do you need your coffee to function? I mean, that means something's going on, but so the
Yeah.
coffee just didn't cut it
But the
anymore. It
coffee did
wasn't working.
nothing. I was so unwell that I just had no energy. I had no physical energy. I had no mental energy. And I had no idea what was going on with me. And I couldn't go to class. I stopped attending classes. I had no energy. I couldn't. I had no idea what was going on.
So you're in college.
I'm in college.
You're not able to attend classes.
Nope.
Is that a big deal? Like, that's a big deal, right? For a young woman, you can't attend classes.
I can't
You can't
function without
function.
attending class, and I'm feeling horrible. I'm not feeling good. I'm feeling really bad. I don't have energy. I don't feel like myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, just it's so hard to get through the day. And unfortunately, I had to leave school in my third year and leave all my friends and leave everything. And I went back to New York City, which I'm originally from, and that's when I started going to doctors. I went to 40 doctors over the course of like
So
6 years,
so
maybe.
it's like here's instead of college and friends and planning on career and future and all
Hmm.
this other stuff, have to leave friends. You have to leave college. You're 21 years old, and you have to now make your life about doctor's appointments. And this is the whole. When you came to me 10 years ago,
Unbelievable.
you know, I knew that was happening in people's lives. but nobody talked about it. They still don't talk about it. I just did a recent podcast recently, and I was sitting there talking about this stuff, and people, they look like deer in headlights. Like young women are really struggling with these conditions. No one talks about that. Like, okay, life stops. I mean, how serious is that? I mean, for you, was it like, okay, why is my life doctor's appointments now? How come there's no,
I had no other choice. Like, so I just was like, this is my life. I have to go to doctor's appointments. I can't go to class. I can't study. I have to know. I have to get better. I had no other choice but to get better. And doctors did not know. No one knew what was going on with me. I tried everything. I tried every pill, every treatment, everything that I could find in regular conventional medicine, and nothing helped me. Nothing with the doctors that I was going to. And then one day, a friend said, "Why don't you go to a Lyme specialist, a Lyme disease specialist?" And so I went to a Lyme disease specialist, and they diagnosed me with Lyme disease, and they said I had neuropsychiatric Lyme disease, and
which is when Lyme disease, they believe, is affecting your mood or your life or your attitude or
your
whatever
energy
it is. Your
levels,
energy,
your mood, your anxiety. I was having brain fog.
you're having the brain fog.
Like,
So
I was like, brain fog is, when you feel kind of spaced out and you don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, you feel spaced out. You don't really feel like yourself. And I mean,
brain fog is debilitating. Brain fog can literally stop people from functioning, getting sentences out, or being able to articulate, be able to converse with people. Brain fog is brutal. It stops people from working. But I mean, here you are, 21 years old. You're dealing with severe brain fog, and you're highly intelligent. You're a highly intelligent person. You're extremely sharp. I've known you for 10 years. You're a brilliant mind, a brilliant person. And to actually have to deal with that brain fog like that is brutal.
Mm-hmm.
So they diagnosed you with psychiatric Lyme.
Yeah, neuropsychiatric. They did a SPEC scan. I think a SPEC scan. Don't quote me on it, but a scan of my brain. They said I had global brain inflammation. And then I started the antibiotics, and I started intravenous antibiotics. I had a PICC line in my arm. I was being every day infused with antibiotics, and it wasn't doing much of anything. And I just believed in it. I said, it's going to get better. I know it's the Lyme disease. And then this was like years later. So by now I'm in my mid to late 20s and still struggling. And one night I was in a restaurant in New York City called Angelica's Kitchen, and I was leaving the restaurant, and I see this magazine, this health magazine, and I'm skimming through it, and I see Anthony, and I'm like, I felt an urge to call him. I can't even describe what I felt that night. It was like out of nowhere, I needed to call Anthony, and I have no idea why I had to call you. Like, it was so weird. Like, I don't go around calling people in health magazines. It's not my day to day. So, I mean, I go to some doctors, but anyway, it was amazing. So I called him, and I remember it was 11 p.m. at night. I was standing in Best Buy in New York City, and Anthony called me back immediately, and I told him what was going on.
Which is something that doesn't happen.
No,
that's another thing too. You have to wait months and months and months.
You have to wait on a waiting list to get to see a Lyme specialist for a year.
Yeah.
Why? So you can, for what?
And and even me, it was hard to get back to people fast. I mean, our office got back to people as quick as we could, like immediately. And I worked day and night. I mean, I got 4 hours of sleep a night for 7 days a week for, I remember, like 6 or 8 years straight without a half a day off for a holiday. But I remember when I got a hold of you, you were surprised. You were like, "What?" Like, you were surprised.
Why is he calling me back? Like, what's going on? And
it's funny.
It was funny. And he basically said to me that you don't have Lyme disease. I said, "What do you mean I don't have Lyme disease?" "Yes, I do." I thought I did. He goes, "No." And I believed him. I was like, "You're right. I don't have Lyme disease. That's false."
Yeah, because, I mean, you didn't get bit by a tick?
No.
I
didn't have any recollection of a tick bite, which is unbelievable. Some people do, but even then,
It's still not Lyme, because you guys are learning about Lyme. Now, what's happening and everything, and anybody who doesn't know about the medical medium information, Lyme disease is now moved out of the category of bacterial now. So medical medium information allowed that to happen, actually prompted and pushed the medical industry to change it. They changed it because of the millions of books that got the truth out about Lyme disease. Lyme disease is not bacteria. If you're still stuck in that bacteria-minded world of Lyme disease, you're going to be held back from getting better. And it's going to hold you back for a lifetime if you're not careful, because it's not bacteria. And the Lyme labs, they've been bankrolling off of this because this is what they built their empires on. They know too. So what's happening is the world's changing now. It's put in autoimmune. So Lyme disease, the medical industry took Lyme disease and they put it in autoimmune now, which means they think the body's attacking itself and it wasn't bacteria. So just so you know, and with her, when she came to me with all these symptoms and everything else and all of that, it wasn't Lyme disease. It just wasn't. You can call it that. You can call it Lyme disease. You can name it anything you want, but it wasn't what was really happening. And you know, and I knew too with you that you weren't bit by a tick, and even when you're bit by a tick, it doesn't mean that's Lyme disease. And I got to, you know, the whole thing. I remember we talked about it and everything. I mean, did you have a relief, like a feeling of relief though?
Oh, I had a huge sense of relief because someone was actually, you know, I believed him completely, and he said that it was something else. Anthony told me that it was heavy metals and it was viral and that I had inflammation going on and that we had to address those factors. And no one really would ever address what was actually going on with the underlying, you know, the issue. And I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, because for brain fog to happen, you got to have mercury. Got to have toxic heavy metals like mercury. Everybody's got mercury in them. And if you guys don't think you have mercury in you, it's not true. You have mercury in you. And our ancestors do, forefathers, down the line, all had mercury in them. And mercury, you know, and what's happening now is young women are getting more sensitive to toxic heavy metals than ever before in our history. And it's a cumulative effect, too, that's happening. Yeah, and the aluminum, that's another one.
Also, aluminum and mercury. Are not good, obviously, and they're, you know, they're neurotoxins.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you get enough mercury and enough aluminum and your body is sensitive for whatever predisposition you may have, it's going to trigger something and it's going to set off a stream of things that is not you. And you need to start looking at what actually is going on, what's causing, you know, you got to start getting those heavy metals out of you. And slowly, obviously, and you talk about that. Yeah.
So what happened? You had the PICC line, you were getting the antibiotics. Were you getting better?
No.
So the antibiotics weren't getting you better, and that's a thing with Lyme disease, because so were you feeling sicker from the antibiotics?
I actually was feeling a little bit, I was feeling sicker, but I was feeling no different at all. Yeah. And you know, I think that if I stayed on them much longer, it could have been to the point where I could have gotten very sick. Yeah.
Why did you stop them? Like, was it because we talked, or you just knew it wasn't working? And
no, because I spoke to you and you explained it in a different way.
I think it made
sense.
I probably told you, and I can't remember, but I probably told you, if you stay on the antibiotics, you're going to go down the pathway. Watch 30 years of people diagnosed with Lyme disease getting bombarded with antibiotics and losing their lives. And I know you were young and you just started them, and I was like, in this situation, you're just going to end up like the rest. And we can't let that happen. And I think I was probably, you know, really charged about it, because it was like, wait a minute, you know, how old are you? I just don't want to see you go through this now, because that's what happens. Because we had thousands of people contact us, women that were already down the dark place of tons of antibiotics, and their lives were shattered because of it, because they weren't properly diagnosed about the viral issue they had, the Epstein-Barr they had, or anything else, and they weren't properly diagnosed with the toxic heavy metals, and their lives were shattered by this phantom bacterial thing. Which, here's the thing, Lyme bacteria is not a superbug. It kills off easy from antibiotics. It's not MRSA. People actually heal from MRSA with antibiotics, and MRSA is antibiotic resistant, and people recover. I've seen people go in the hospital with MRSA, come out of the hospital, and they recover, because MRSA is a superbug, but it has a higher healing rate Then Borrelia, Babesia, it's unbelievable. Then Bartonella, it's unbelievable. So what happens is they bombard people with tremendous amounts of antibiotics. It's not even about bacteria.
Yeah.
Viruses don't get stopped from an antibiotic. Antibiotics make viruses worse. That's why the Lyme community has suffered decade after decade and gotten worse and worse. And it was like, no, Liz, and at that point, I didn't know you like a best friend now. But at that point, I was like, Liz, no, you can't go through this. I can't watch you go through this.
Yeah.
But you were relieved to know that it
Yeah.
wasn't Lyme, that there
I
was
was
answers.
relieved. I was relieved when I got the Lyme diagnosis. I was hugely relieved. I was like, finally, someone knows what's going on with me. But when Anthony told me it wasn't Lyme, there was no resistance for some reason. There wasn't a need for me to hang on to it because I really understood what he was like. Everything he was saying made sense in a way that I don't doesn't make sense with other people that I've seen. It's completely his knowledge is has research to back it up, and he dedicates his life to understanding underlying root causes of issue of illness.
Well, the research comes later. When I told the world Hashimoto's thyroiditis many years ago, and even published it, and said that the Hashimoto's thyroiditis is caused by Epstein-Barr virus, and fibromyalgia is caused by Epstein-Barr virus. It came out later that they found a link with Epstein-Barr. So the research always
Mm,
comes later, and that's what's always happening. Where sure, the research shows up, and people say, "Oh, he must have got it from the research." No, the research
mm,
got it from me.
I see.
That's the irony, and it's so crazy how that works. And the same thing with Lyme disease. I've been saying it's viral all these years. Now they took it and put it in autoimmune category. Now they're trying to phase out the bacterial energy about it all, and doctors are swimming like they're swimming in a sea of confusion now. Doctors are like, wait a minute, I thought we were treating bacteria. And then you get the old dogs left that are still treating bacteria, but the new doctors now that are getting all the medical medium books, all the new doctors that have them in their offices and everything, they're treating it like viral now. They're starting to, because
Mm-hmm.
neurological Lyme is in the autoimmune category. So
Mm,
it's really amazing how millions of these medical medium books have infiltrated doctors' offices, have gotten into people's hands, and it's changed what happened. The big mistake, the Lyme mistake. And I know a lot of the Lyme groups online don't understand this yet. Many of them do. Many of them, I know that medical meeting books were a dirty secret for a lot of people because they would get like hassled if they got off the road of it being bacterial. But this is saving lives. It's saved so many countless lives now. And when you're a girl, you're 21 years old, you're a young woman, you can't finish college, or you're trying to struggle to do college, and you're visiting 23. I mean, how many doctors did you see? Like five doctors? Five doctors is a lot of
no.
doctors. Five doctors is a lot of doctors.
No, at least over the course of 6 years, probably around 25 at least.
That's
I
incredible.
at
That's
least I
incredible.
went. I had no other option though because
Yeah.
I was unable to function. So if I didn't advocate for myself, there would be no one because no one understood what was going on. No one around me had
social
any
media
idea what was going on.
social media wasn't born. What
Yeah.
happens is, like, a lot of you guys tell your stories, you show your stories, you show like your skin problems, you talk about your chronic illness, your neurological problems. Now young women are allowed to actually, they're on social media even though it's still swept under the carpet, even though it's still not taken seriously out there, but it's still a platform. This is like 2008, 9, 10. This was a really dark period for young women with this kind of problem. I mean, so you're a fighter. That's how I see it. You're a fighter, and you're like, okay, yeah, you saw 25 doctors, and
Yeah.
you just, I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I just think about the people out there who don't, are getting misdiagnosed. I think that's the problem. It's not just about Lyme. It's kind of like you're being diagnosed. Maybe it's the right diagnosis, but there's no long-term like understanding of what's going on underneath just giving someone a pill. And and maybe the pill is a little bit helpful and that's good. Maybe you have to take the pill. That's okay. That's no problem if you have to take the pill. But it's that there's no regard for anything else because they don't understand. They don't know what is going on.
Yeah, no, I totally get it, but I didn't. I only lived it on by seeing, like your struggle. Okay, I lived it that way, seen others struggle over the years, but I mean, I haven't lived it physically. You know, I haven't lived it on that level. Um, so I can't put myself in your shoes because I haven't lived that. I haven't had, you know, where I was struggling like that, you know, physically with a Lyme diagnosis or anything else. But I can't imagine what that's like when you're young. When you're older, it's hard. Oh my God. Women are in the 30s, women are in the 40s, women are in the 50s. It's hard, but I can't imagine though. I mean, your life should not be disturbed. It should not be kind of like roadblocked because you know you got this diagnosis that the science and research has knows nothing about, and that's the hard part for me. It's like when you're healthy and you feel indestructible and nothing seems wrong, science and research seems to have all the answers, but it kills me when I know that they don't have the answers, but we're pretending they do. And then your life stops because of it. But what about all the other young women out there? Their lives stop because of it, because science research doesn't have that answer. And so, you know, visiting doctors and then you find out who your friends are, and you realize you can't keep up with what you know what I mean. All of it, it just
Mm-hmm.
it becomes difficult, and
Yeah.
that's why I say you're a survivor of this, and you're a survivor of it. You're still really young, of course, but you're a survivor of during that dark period that was coming out of 2008, 2009, 2010. No social media kind of platform. The Lyme groups weren't there for support. There wasn't, you know, whether they have the right information or not. There wasn't any of that.
Mm.
And, you know, you were in it alone, is what I'm saying. And yeah, you found me, but you were in it alone.
And
And
there has to, and there's millions of other people out there
going through this.
who are suffering, and there has to be more than just a surface topical solution to what's going on. I feel that people need to realize, if you're young out there and you're going through something and you don't know what it is, and you know, the people around you are looking at you like, what's wrong with her? Maybe she just doesn't want to do this. Maybe she's lazy. Um, you know, just know that there's nothing wrong with you, and you just have a physical problem, and it's not your fault.
Yeah, and it's not your body attacking itself, because that's what the industry, that's what science and research wants you to know. They want you to know that your body's attacking itself. That's what they really want you to. They want you to believe. I'm sorry, that your body's destroying itself. Your immune system's destroying itself. That's why they moved Lyme into autoimmune too, is because not only was it a complete mystery and it's not bacterial, but it's there because it falls into the category now of, because Lyme people, they have the Hashimoto's and they have the thyroid problems and they have skin problems, they have all these other problems, and they're realizing they never even knew what Lyme was to begin with.
Mm.
So they just, now they're lumping it into the autoimmune category. They want young women to know that their body is faulty and just and it's destroying them,
Mhm.
and their genes are faulty, their body's attacking itself. They want them to know that. Now, why do they want them to know that? I don't have any idea. The only thing I can come up with is science research just likes to protect itself when it doesn't have answers. So if it doesn't have answers, it's going to protect itself over people.
Yeah.
But but the bottom line is, it's like, so you're in this position in your life. You're a young woman. You're going through this. There's really, you're in it alone. That's how I see it, because you're walking out of doctor's offices, you don't have an answer, you're really sick. I mean, when I met you, you were like, you were, you told me when I talked with you that you can't even get out of the house. There was,
Mhm.
there was no exercising. You weren't going to be able to exercise. You weren't going to be able to hop on a treadmill. You weren't going to be able to do, you know, you weren't going to be able to do Pilates. You weren't going to be able to do things, yoga, things that young women
Not to
like to do.
intervene, but I ran track in high school, and I
Oh my
couldn't.
God, I didn't even know that.
It doesn't matter. But I was a sprinter in high school, but I couldn't even get to the gym. Like, I couldn't get out of the house, and it wasn't. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter if you know, whatever. It's
Well, when you're a young woman and you're running track in high school, you know that exercise, because exercise is also a release. It's
It's
like a
great.
release. It's a great release. It can, when you're stressed out, that's how you can battle stress as a young person. You're actually even an older person, whatever. You use exercise as a tool, a healthy tool and stuff. So here you can't exercise.
Can't do
You have a
that.
history of running track. That's a big deal. And then when I met you, it was like I remember you on you're on the phone and you were like, Anthony, I can't even I can't. The brain fog's so bad. The fatigue is so bad. I remember you telling me your weight was really, really low, like really low. You could barely eat
No
because you
appetite.
had no energy. It takes energy to get food, to make food, to eat food. All of it. You were like, and and you bore it really well. I gotta say, because when I was on the phone, you were just like, what do I need to do? That's it. You're like, what do I need to do? And I get choked up about this because it broke my heart to see you in this condition, and because I know who you really were. The one thing about how it works with my source and how I hear the voice I hear and the gift I have and everything is I know who you are as a person, and and to know that you were suffering and struggling like this, I broke my heart. And I was like, look, we're gonna get you better. And and you were talking a lot. We were connecting a lot to make sure you at least knew your body wasn't that you did have something going on. It wasn't Lyme, and we had to go after the
Clear.
true problem.
Right.
And I remember then the spirulina
The spirulina
came.
came.
The spirulina, the terrible
Spirulina.
spirulina.
I think I consumed so much spirulina in that amount of time. It was unbelievable. I remember
I have
coming.
some right in here, my heavy metal detox smoothie, but yeah.
I remember coming home one day and there was spirulina all over my kitchen. My cat had knocked down a glass bottle of, or maybe the whole thing had exploded everywhere, and it took me like weeks to clean it up.
Oh, that's a mess.
I just had so much spirulina during that time, and I it was and cilantro. I remember juice. I was juicing all the time, and it was so helpful for the brain fog, especially.
Yeah,
Oh my God, the juicing.
yeah. Because you know what happened? People, I had somebody recently tell me like, "Oh, you just started this the other day. Your heavy metal detox smoothie. Are you kidding?" This is going all the way back 2010, 2011, and you're doing the spirulina and cilantro. Yeah, because Spirit always had this information going all the way back, and that's a thing because it's that I've watched it help so much. So the cilantro, the spirulina, those two alone were helping you,
Mhm.
and I think I tried to get you on the wild blueberries. I think
Mhm.
that was happening. I think
Yeah, the
a lot of fruit because
zinc,
it was anti-fruit then too.
fruit. It was
It
a
was
lot of fruit. Fruit every hour. I had to have a piece of fruit,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
just for the glucose.
Yeah, but
Just
you were like, what do I need to do? And I was like, you got to do fruit because fruit kills pathogens, and that information still isn't out there. You can even surf around YouTube and find all these professionals that are on there talking. They're not pro fruit. They don't think fruit does anything, and it literally saves lives. And that's the sad part about if you're first time watching this, learn this now and put your belief system aside and actually learn. But it's the fruit. And I remember telling you, no, you got to do all this fruit, and you were just like, you're like, you're just tough. You were just like, okay, what do I got to do? And you, I remember, and it wasn't, and you weren't afraid. And I have to say that I understand when people are afraid. I understand that, but people are afraid when they're trying something that isn't so popular. Like right now, the world hates fruit so much for no reason. And back then, 2010, they hated it. But it was a little easier to also do because it was like it wasn't so bad with so many professionals, harping on fruit like they do now. But it's like, but you still did it, and it was odd. You were like, meaning it was odd that I would recommend that kind of fruit. And every hour you had to have it because your nervous system, and this is the thing, when you have a nervous system and it's a viral load causing the problem. So with you, it was the Epstein-Barr, which everybody has. If you don't think you have Epstein-Barr, you're wrong. It sits inside all of us and it awaits for an opportunity, whatever that might be. You may accidentally get more heavy metals through some avenue that we research and we know where mercury is or other metals and aluminum and copper. But we all have Epstein-Barr, and young or old, we all have it, and it awaits to want to come out one day and wreak a lot of havoc. And so you had the Epstein-Barr, you had the mercury and the aluminum. The Epstein-Barr feeds off the mercury and aluminum. You get the brain fog, you get the brain inflammation, you get the nerve inflammation, and then that's where you were. And the fruit was so important because you needed glucose for the nerves and the nervous system. The nervous system runs on sugar. Another great mistake now, you guys, is everything's keto, keto, keto. I'm not making fun of keto. Keto offers a lot of great stuff because it gets you off of processed foods and all this other junk and garbage. So it's really good on that level. But when you're really sick and you got real issues going on, fats they starve your nervous system. They don't feed it. So if you're a young woman dealing with Lyme and your neurological Lyme and all of that, the last thing you want is your fats to be through off the chart and the high fat diet just because it's popular. And you don't want that. You want to make sure there's lots of sugar in your diet, healthy natural sugar like steamed potatoes and I think I had you on steamed potatoes, I'm pretty sure at one point, and fruits like the bananas and the blueberries and all this, because it's sugars that revive and revitalize your nervous system when you're going through this inflammation and this neurological Lyme. And if you're first time seeing this, just don't poo-poo it. You take this advice. She did. And I mean, did it save your life? I mean, so what?
Yes,
So
I was having a lot of digestive issues, like severe constipation and things going on. And the gut was the first thing to heal. My
wow.
gut, my gut was the first thing to heal. In
Yeah.
a matter of weeks, it was coming back to normal. Like, it was unbelievable.
So you're on the phone with me, and you're like, and I remember that too. You're like, my stomach's getting better,
hmm
and that was huge for you because then you're like, wait a minute, I'm getting better.
Yeah.
And
I couldn't believe that I was getting, like, I was feeling better, like, with my stomach. And then I was slowly getting anxiety was getting better. The brain fog was getting better. I still to this day have some issues with my energy levels, residual issues, because I found Anthony later on,
sure,
unfortunately.
but
But
you also
I
do a
still,
lot though.
oh yes,
You do a
but
lot.
it's very, it's very manageable. Like, I'm high, it's
Yeah.
nothing.
You got your
Like,
global. She has her Global Strays Foundation. So I want you to get a chance to talk about that for a minute because that's
okay.
important. Because this is a big deal to me right here. Is here you are. You recovered from something that was so difficult, and you were suffering, and because of recovering from that, you're saving animals. You're saving dogs, which I have a love for dogs. That's why I talk about it in the first book. I have the story with
Yeah.
August and everything, and dogs mean the world to me, and they just do. Animals mean the world to me too, of course. And so what happened is you're now doing this powerful work globally on saving dogs, and it's called Global Strays, and I want everybody to check that out. It's Global Strays, and look into that, and if donate to it or whatever. I don't know how it's set up, but that's you can make donations and so forth, so you can help out animals. But she's running that. That's and but yeah. So go
I was
ahead.
able also, when I got better, I was able to go back to school. I always wanted to study photography, and I was able to become a photojournalist for a few years. And then in New York City, which I absolutely loved. I loved photojournalism, and I still do love it. And but I was gravitated towards helping animals and the people that were rescuing animals in parts of the world where there is very little help for animal welfare issues. So I traveled to parts of the world, Central America, and I saw there was an overpopulation crisis of animals everywhere, horses, dogs, cats, everywhere. And it was astounding to me that nothing was being done to control the population, to help these animals. And I started meeting with animal rescuers who were doing incredible work, but they had no help. They had no outside donations. So that's how I began, Global Strays began to develop. It was the need to help people who had no help and they wanted to help animals. And we're helping horses, we're helping dogs, we're helping cats, in a different, and not just in rescuing one animal at a time. We help families with veterinarian care who cannot afford veterinarian care for their pets.
That's incredible.
So, and we do
That's
spay and
incredible.
neutering and educational programs so people can understand more about the love for animals and why animals are important.
Well,
Animals have also changed my
they help,
life.
animals help me. They support me emotionally. I mean, my dogs are, they're my therapy. They're
Yeah,
my therapy
exactly.
with everything going on, and it's such a critical part of my life. So I know it's part of your, cats and dogs and horses, and they're a part of everybody's life. So many people out there. So
Yeah.
while she's doing incredible work, and she healed to do that. So you feel like you're it's manageable now. Like you can work. You even went back to school, and
Yeah.
it's
It's
manageable.
completely manageable. I'm living wonderful life, and I mean, there's no. Obviously, there's days that sometimes it comes a little bit of it comes back, and I have to take more supplements, and I have to, and can't, but I'm able to do what I couldn't do without having met you.
That's
So,
incredible. That's incredible. What were some of the other supplements that I had you on the zinc?
B12.
B12, because the B12 is critical, and if don't just get any B12. The best B12 is the Vimergy.com. I gave some away on a giveaway. I purchased some and gave some on a giveaway recently. So it's Vimergy, V as in Victor, Imergy, Vimergy.com. So their B12 is key, and because it's a special blend, it's a quality and everything. But B12 is imperative for your nervous system. And what happens is with people when they have neurological Lyme or any kind of nervous system diagnosis, whether it's fibromyalgia, whether it's anything, and whether it's CFS, ME/CFS, whatever it might be that you got a diagnosis of, what happens is that your B12 might be high at the doctor's office and they don't know you still need it. That you can't go by that reading on your blood work that your B12 is high and you don't need any B12. It's a great mistake. Great mistake at the doctor's office. It's not the doctor's fault for not knowing these things. They're not going to have a source they're not going to have a source that can provide them the information like I do. They're just not. So what happens is the B12 critical for your recovery. And and zinc's another one too. Zinc is critical for recovery because of the viral issue. So when you have neurological Lyme or any kind of Lyme disease diagnosis, whatever it is, you need zinc because it's your defense. That's your defense against the viral issues that create it. And the people with Lyme disease, they'll have the heavy metals, the toxic heavy metals, whether they know it or not, and they'll have the pathogen, the Epstein-Barr and shingles. They'll have either both of those. Yours was Epstein-Barr, and so it's important to know that. But you still, it's good you still take your supplements
Yeah.
though. It's still because you have to, and you still eat pretty good, right?
Yes, definitely. I when I eat gluten is if I ever return to gluten, that's when I notice my symptoms start to come back. So I have to stay gluten free.
Yeah.
That's been one of the most helpful things with the gut, especially
Yeah.
repairing. I just felt way better when I took
Yeah.
personally when I took gluten out. Everyone's different, but that was
You're going to be sensitive to the things that were causing trouble at the beginning, meaning like you had the viral issue, you had the heavy metals, and then anything that like gluten and dairy products. If you do too many of those, you can get sensitive again because they get in the way of the body's healing mechanisms. They get in the way of the body healing and everything. So I'm really proud of you for doing that. And we got some celery juice in front of us too right now. So
yeah.
we got some celery juice, but hopefully it doesn't spill on
And
you because mine always does.
my favorite supplement is turmeric.
Mm.
I
Yep.
love it. It's my
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah,
And
that's
when I take
amazing.
it, I just feel so much better. Like an hour later, I feel I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
what it is.
well, it's a gentle anti-inflammatory. It's really amazing. It's antiviral. It's a great one. I love turmeric too. I mean,
I'm a vitamin C.
and the vitamin C. Got to have vitamin C. If you're dealing with Lyme disease, vitamin C is critical. Um, and you want to be generous with your vitamin C. You want to make sure you're doing an ester C. That's number one. The Vimergy ester C is the best. The medical medium vitamin C shock therapy is incredible for people dealing with Lyme disease, dealing with any kind of diagnosis that's confusing, autoimmune diagnosis of any kind, because any autoimmune diagnosis is viral. You just need to know that's the only way you're going to learn. And if you've heard that before out there, it comes originally from the medical medium information in books. So just know where it originates from. So if a doctor tells you it's viral, that autoimmune, that originates from medical medium information. Know where the source comes from. But I'm just proud of you because I'm honestly, you've always taken care of yourself since then too. You didn't just get better and throw it away. You know, you didn't get better and just throw it away. I've gotten people, a lot of people have gotten better and pull them out of a dark space, and they just kind of, they forget what got them there, meaning like
Right.
doing all the good things and stuff. So you always have these tools here and you're always using them and know better, and it's amazing, you know, and that I'm really proud of you for that. It's incredible. So overall, like, you know, you learned how to heal. You learned what the answer was. It was a great relief to know you actually had something else that you can pinpoint that was wrong, like the real cause. Do you think that's going to help out a lot of other people out there when they know that there's these other real causes? I do.
Yeah, I think
do.
people have to keep their mind open to other things that could be going on
Yeah.
under
It's
the
important.
surface. Yeah.
It's important. If you get locked into a certain belief, you got to be careful. Like if you're being told, the one thing I notice is that like the medical medium information is always controversial because it goes against all of the trendy money making things. Like Lyme is a money maker. It's out there. So what it is, if you go against what they're trying to do, then you know you look like you don't have the answer, but they all have the answer. Be cautious on all those very things because that's how it works. We get sucked into these trendy protocols, diagnoses, and all the stuff out there. These trendy ways of that things are handled or created. We got to look out for that stuff because it can block you. What happens is, you know, you get diagnosed with Lyme disease, you get told it's bacteria, you get thrown on antibiotics, and you feel like that's just the way it's got to be, but it doesn't have to be that way. There's answers. What I mean is you have to be open. Something inside of you were like, no, this is, I mean, is that angelic intervention? I don't know. You just knew. You just knew at the time, meaning like
I don't know.
you were just like, you just knew you had to call me because that's funny because some people, when they say that, they'll be like, I don't know how it happened, but it just did. And I'm just blown away that, you know, I'm just blown away. We become friends. We become close friends all these years. And I didn't think back when I met you in 2010, okay, I didn't think we'd be sitting here, right here.
No, I didn't either.
And doing this. This is just blows me away. Like I never thought that ever. Like if you told me that then, I would have been, what are you talking about? We're gonna be sitting, you know, we're gonna be if we, you know, but it's incredible. So overall every day your energy still feels pretty good. You're still feeling like you can do your thing. You still feel good about it.
Yes, I do. I mean, there are some days that it's, you know, obviously not the way it is, but not the way it is the day before.
Yeah. Do you run into people? Do you know anybody that's dealing with Lyme? Do you ever run into people over the years? Do you know anybody that's dealing with other conditions, or do you hear about it?
Who say that they are experiencing Lyme. They have Lyme and that it hasn't gotten better. They've been on antibiotics, and they're taking a lot of antibiotics, and so I encourage them to read your books. And to actually look at alternative perspectives. So every book, I started with your first book. And that's really goes into the pretty much,
about Lyme. It has the Lyme story right there.
This one.
That's it. Exactly. And you can learn about Lyme and the truth about Lyme and everything. Please know that I don't do consultations. If you're trying to reach me for that, I actually did the books purposely. The waiting list of people were in the millions by the time I published this first book. But the answers are here to heal. You don't have to see me in order to heal. The answers are like what we're giving now. How we're here, why we're doing this. This is the whole point why they're doing this.
And getting the supplements.
Yeah.
And starting
learning
the
how
supplements
to do it.
and changing the diet and really giving it a chance with the diet change.
Yeah.
And I know it's really, really hard.
It's not easy.
So
It's not easy. But
yeah.
what's
But you gotta-
harder? What's harder,
is
being
staying
sick?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's harder.
Yeah, harder staying sick. I love that. And because it's true. I mean, it's like, I don't know, but look, I wasn't sick like you in the sense with the neurological Lyme. I haven't suffered in that level. I suffer from just the the hearing spirit. That's not fun, and not being able to live a normal life because of it, throughout my life. But that's my story in here. But the point is that I haven't been in that trench myself personally, and I all I know is I can't imagine what you went through. And, I am not going to pretend I can, because I've never felt that kind of fatigue and that brain fog. And I never had to go to 50 doctors for some people, and 25 doctors, 10 doctors, 5 doctors is too much. And I've never had to do anything like that. So I can't imagine. But all I can tell you is that I feel you, and I believe, what you've been through. I was there at that time with you, and you were crying on the phone, and and just know that, hey, it's wonderful that you're here. I want people to know you can get the answers. You don't have to be on the phone with me. You don't. You could get the answers in the books, and you can get the answers on, like, with this here at the YouTube Live. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell so you can see these lives. And thank you for coming on.
Of course.
And hey, I'm gonna click the button, and everybody take care. Bless your heart.